Yeah, I probably could kind of very good. Problem. Well, and they're just the same shape. It's got to be the same truck. Look at that one. We're like abstract. I need to get back to my iPad, my bag, and I just bring it with me. They're very healthy. I appreciate you letting us. Yeah. I'm not. Julie, would you call the roll?
Bartlesmeyer.
Here.
Dave Elliott.
Here.
Chip. Bert Hart.
Here.
Brian Holt.
Here.
Robert Nelson.
Here. Would you stand with me? Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Tonight we have no comments from the chair, no comments from the public. New employee introduction. Well,
Yeah.
So Luke,
I'll start with Callie Griffin. She's our new rodeo assistant. Sorry, Kalina Anderson is our new women's basketball head coach. Jalen Millis is the women's basketball assistant coach. And Tyler Long there is the head esports coach / assistant basketball coach.
Okay.
You want them to say anything, or you guys good?
Would you all like to say something?
Anybody want to say
You
anything?
guys want to call and say hi? You guys good? You're welcome. You go say hi.
Yeah, just tell us something about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Kaylin Anderson. I was here in 2016, 2017 season as an assistant under Jeff Cadman, who is now our head golf coach. I'm glad to be back here in Fort Scott, and we're looking forward to this season and many more.
My name is Jalen Milas. I'm new to Fort Scott, new to the state of Kansas. I've been to almost every state in the Bible Belt, so it's great to be here. It's great to get started. It's great to get the season started. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Best of
See
luck.
y'all again.
Okay, thank you guys.
I'm Callie. I was here before. I'm back again, so I'm excited to be back. It's a little different now, but trying to do some numbers things and stuff like that. But I'm really more of a return visit, so.
Usually the water that brings people.
Yeah. they-
Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Long. I'm from Warrensburg, Missouri, so just down the road, about 2 hours from here. Last year was an assistant coach at Emporia State University for men's basketball. The 5 years previous to that was at the University of Central Missouri. Got my major and my master's degree there as well in sport management. Had some family ties in the Fort Scott area, so was really excited when the positions came available here to first come back for basketball and then get involved in esports. So it's been a good transition. Really excited. We have really good students. And just excited for the year with both esports and with basketball. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, you take care of your.
I'll take care of mine.
All right.
So Shane, come on up. So Shane Kern is our welding instructor at STARS. Yeah.
My name's Shane Kern. I live in Pleasant, Kansas. The STARS program opened up and Dr. Jay is the director up there. It took him several months to talk me into doing this. I really have enjoyed it. I'm a union pipe fitter. On a little medical hiatus right now as I'm getting ready for a kidney transplant. So this was a perfect opportunity. I've taught apprentices in the trades for nearly 20 years and got a great set of students, really enjoying what we're doing and looking forward to what's going on. And Dr. J told me if I ever started doing this, I probably wouldn't worry so much about going back to pipe fit. And I will tell you that so far, the experience I've had up there at STARS has been, the paycheck doesn't matter. It's the young men and women that we're working with up there has been incredible. It's such it has restored my hope for the youth with these kids I've got up there in Pleasant, a great set of kids. Really enjoying it, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael Clark is our new CDL trainer, examiner, mechanic, kind of jack of all trades. So he and I have been working on getting that started up.
So, Michael Clark, I have a bachelor's degree in automotive technology with an emphasis in business administration. I've been teaching PDL training for the last 5 years part-time at Johnson County Community College and campus department of transportation. I'm glad to be given a full-time opportunity to teach it. I'm looking forward to seeing this program grow and help be a part of that, hoping to see it thrive.
Thank you.
Last, maybe least, no problem. Tom Myers is the new CTEC director, so took my position down there and I've been training. I told you not to say anything about the training he's received so far.
Well, I will say, so Tommy Myers, I spent the last 4 years recruiting for college internships and apprenticeships at Crawford Construction and really found that previous career, previous employment wasn't near as rewarding as helping young people find a meaningful career. One of the schools out of about 120 that I recruited in 4 states was CTEC. And the production, I think when you go in there and you see a little bit different things going on that are different, kind of opened my eyes to the world of education and how involved we can get at an early age. And it was something I wasn't looking for. In fact, we tried to kind of recruit Chris away from Fort Scott. And don't say that, I shouldn't say that too much. But anyway, he said no, and then I got a return phone call. So we think about this. And so anyway, I appreciate the opportunity. We're diving in, we're running fast and trying to get caught up. I'm trying to get caught up. The instruction is what I needed, fast-paced and building nonstop, and that's great. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, I've got two of you and then I'll introduce Jared as well. So Deborah Highland, new English instructor, and you want to say anything about your background, or where you came from? I just short, very short. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I came here from St. Louis. I've been teaching English since 1991. I came here from St. Louis Community College, and I'm moving in and getting settled and like the students, and the whole thing. So thanks.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
And then new on the job, very recently, Kaylee Benford. Kaylee is a new nursing instructor.
Yeah.
Jason's gonna take pictures of it. So,
That's even worse. That's not a good side profile. So yeah, I'm the new nursing instructor over there. I'm gonna teach peds, OB, and mental health are gonna be my primary courses. Before that, I was actually a Fort Scott graduate, and then I got my bachelor at Pitt, and now I'm working on my doctorate through Maryville. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, and I'm prior service, so I served active duty in the Marine Corps.
Thank you.
and then we have several other new instructors that were not able to make it. Doug Hurd, who had been here before, had a dentist appointment at 4:30 this afternoon and was worried he would be drooling, so he decided not to come. He thought he was going to. But then Jared Dorsey is our new digital content specialist, and I will let Jared talk briefly.
With, if I get going for too long, can somebody can you cut me off? Okay, well, if you've talked to me for 5 seconds, you'll know I give you the whole story. So, but I'm glad to be here. Jared Dorsey, digital content specialist, and I've been with Wardcraft for almost 20 years. I actually came back to school right here. I was not a good high school student, but found my love for higher ed, and finished strong here. Went to Pitt State a couple of times and worked for Pitt State for about 1.5 years, and then taught at Franklin Technology Center for 2 years, graphics and printing technology. But I love teaching, and so far, it's been a great time here. Everybody is so positive. It feels like I'm back at Pitt State all over again. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate those of you new that you're more than welcome to go if you would like. So thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome.
And on our side, I was going to mention the other new instructors that we have. Samantha Moore teaches math. She replaced Kathy Malone. Connor Vernon is livestock judging and ag instructor. Doug, I mentioned. Alex Chesney is the new music instructor. Courtney Madison is cosmetology, and that's all I have.
Assessment update.
There are some visuals. There's no sound.
Current presentation is this.
Lackluster.
Background music.
Background music.
Apparently that doesn't.
I'm not good at singing here. Everybody's gonna leave. I'll leave right now.
So. All right, well, Sonia and I will be this is the clip we're talking about, I think. Sonia and I will be talking a little bit about assessment. We're going to give you a brief update of what we've been doing, and I will let her kind of get started with it. So I'm just trying to get this out of the way.
Okay, at Fscc, what we have done so far is we have created the definition of assessment, because when we started like 4 years ago, we didn't have anything. So we started with the definition of assessment, and then why we do assessment, what are the guiding principles behind it, and what are the different levels of assessment. So we're just gonna try to condense all that information in a short presentation. So our assessment, basically, it entails a systematic data collection to enhance student learning and the use of data to inform curricular changes. Basically, what that is our instructors, when they teach, they do make these curricular changes, but they weren't keeping documentation of it. So basically, assessment is keeping that documentation, making those changes based on the trend data we have collected, and going from there.
The ultimate goal of assessment is to improve student learning. And you'll see that that kind of is embedded in almost everything that we talk about and everything we do with assessment. A few years ago, in 2015, 2016, we had a site visit for accreditation. And so we knew that assessment was something we needed to work on. Well, in 2020, at our 4-year, we were still needing to work on assessment. And we've really, in the last 4 to 5 years, picked up from starting almost at zero. It seemed like we kept restarting and doing doing something different every couple of years. And so we've stuck with a plan, and we've really moved forward with quite a bit of progress on assessment. So, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say assessment, that is part of assessment, is continuous improvement. So whether it's to curriculum or changes in your classroom, or even itself to the assessment process, because we have come a long way and we have learned a lot, and we've gone from what we used to do and what worked and what didn't work. We just left it, and whatever worked, we continue on moving forward on that path, right?
Yeah.
So you want me to, okay. The reasons why we do assessment, because, and this is the presentation, we did it for all our faculty at the end of, at the beginning of the semester for in-service, so to make sure everybody is on the same page. So why do we do assessment? The first thing is that we want to know what our students are learning. I mean, our instructors know what they are learning, but we want to, again, we have stakeholders, which we want to let everybody know what our students are learning. So that is the first thing, to ensure that instruction, whatever they are teaching, they meet the outcome. Sometimes they are teaching the things which may not be the expectations, what they are expecting. So basically streamlining that process. We are also trying to enhance student experience by engaging in continuous quality improvement. Like I said, whatever has worked, talking with other instructors in terms of whatever working in one course, how we can implement in the other course. So continuously doing that to improve the quality of our academic programs.
And this is one we've had to focus quite a bit on.
Yes.
The goal is improvement of program, improvement of student learning. It's not to prove your teaching. So evaluation of faculty is completely separate from assessment. If students are doing poorly, that's not necessarily a direct reflection, or if they're not meeting the benchmarks, that's not necessarily a direct reflection. The goal is to improve, not prove with assessment. So
to identify the weaknesses or wherever the gap is. It's not really weaknesses, to identify the gap where students are lacking those skills and how to improve those skills. So basically focusing on those areas. And the last one is to exhibit accountability and transparency for our students and various stakeholders. Again, when parents come here and students come here, we want them to be able to show that, hey, what they're going to learn at the end of this program, this is what they're going to learn. And this is the data we have collected so far previously. So to match in terms of how our students have been doing in the field.
And it's a work in progress. We've started being able to put some of our data on the webpage so people can access that and look at it from an external standpoint. And we're going to keep doing that and do it even more so as we go forward with it.
And I don't told me to wait till for the accomplishments and future plans till the end, but I just wanted to say that yes, the ultimate goal is to have this plan for each program, to put it on our website in terms of how our graduates are doing, their program outcomes, what their future holds for them in terms of the graduates which have graduated from our programs, how they are doing. So putting all that data on our website for everybody to see. So that is the ultimate goal. Okay, we do assessment at these 5 different levels because we want to make sure that we are assessing all our students irrespective of their degree or certificates, which they're getting over here. So the first one is institutional. Institutional is for all our students. It's based on the experience they get when they come to Fscc. So we are assessing them on that experience in terms of what we are teaching them and are we making them ready to go out in the real world and to be, whether it's for a job or for a higher education, whatever their ultimate goal is, that if we can assess those outcomes in terms of we are teaching them those skills. The next one is general education level. General education level mainly applies to the students who are in our associate degrees, in terms of associate of science, associate of arts,
Transfer track.
transfer track, associate of general studies, and associate of
That's it.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. For institutional level outcomes, we have a subcommittee which we have created, and they basically it's a part of an assessment committee, and it guides the whole process of institutional.
And we'll get into that here in another minute. So you want to talk department?
Yes, the next 3rd level is department and program, and again, it's entirely faculty led. That they are the ones who have come for each program. They have came up with the outcomes, program learning outcomes, and they are the ones who are assessing those outcomes based on the students who go through their program. The next one is course level outcomes. Again, these are what the students are learning in each and every course in our programs. And the last level is co-curricular, and co-curricular is based on all the activities and things which our students can participate when they come to Fscc.
That are outside of the regular curriculum.
Correct.
So to kind of look at that graphically and know institutional outcomes is our top level. That's what every student who walks through our doors, if they graduate from Fort Scott Community College, they will have been able to achieve what our institutional outcomes are. Then you see the gen ed outcomes there on the left. Those are transfer track students. Courses fill into both programs and department. Only associate degrees will fill into the gen ed outcomes, but certificate programs, welding, masonry, software will fill into the institutional outcomes. And then co-curricular is on the far side. That influences institutional outcomes, but does not influence curricular items within that. So our institutional level, we have 2 outcomes. We had personal responsibility, but we determined at our last assessment meeting that personal responsibility was not really a strong institutional outcome. It was embedded in everything else we do. So academic success, and you can kind of read there, good standing, meeting the institutional expectations. You can see how personal responsibility would be in that. And then social responsibility is preparing students for civic and community engagement, social cultural awareness, inclusion, and betterment of the community. And if I go back a slide, you can kind of see how some of these items that they do on the co-curricular side can be related to campus and community engagement as well. So fast forward to academic success, and I'll go through this real quick. You don't have to read all of it. So in academic success, we look at multiple different benchmarks. We look at completion and retention rates. We look at undergraduate hours completed. We look at financial aid probation status, and we look at institutional GPA. We want our students to have, we want 50% of our first-time full-time students to either complete or be retained fall to fall. So if they enter fall of 22, we expect them to be here fall of 23, or we expect them to complete the program. Look at undergraduate hours. So 75% of the courses attempted will be successfully completed with a grade C or higher. Financial aid probation status, more than 65% of our students will meet our satisfactory academic progress policy requirements. So no students on financial aid or fewer students on financial aid probation, warning, and that sort of thing. And then institutional GPA, 70% of our students will have a cumulative term GPA of higher than 2.5. That just means for the fall semester, 75% of our students will have a 2.5 or higher. We didn't want to aggregate that. Yes, John.
Does the benchmark 50% of the full-time
first-time students, is that a number you're striving for, or is that about what happens anyway?
That's a number we're striving for. That's not always going to be the case on retention.
Okay.
Community college completion retention rates are not high traditionally. And so that is a number we strive for. Now, every 3 years, we take a look at them. And if we've met that benchmark 3 years in a row, we're going to move that benchmark higher.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we do with the trend. And I can show you that actually on the next slide. So the benchmark is the red line you see. So for completion rates, we're right around that 55% mark. That says 50% on that one. Our actual benchmark is going to be 55%. So you see, we go back to 2015. So 2015, 2016, 2017 was okay. 2018, we dropped. 2019, we came back up. So you have to wait a couple of years on data because your first time full-time completion rate. Undergraduate hours, you can look at that one there. Financial aid probation status. You see how in 2020, we had a lot fewer students on not meeting. We had many more students meeting our policy. I'm not sure why it jumped so high, or we'll be looking for this next year to kind of see where we're at and see if that trends back down or not. Not a bad thing, but it raises some questions in my mind of why in 2020 did less students have issues with financial aid probation. And then institutional GPA is meeting that benchmark as well. You can see none of them are way over what the benchmark would be. So, but that's academic success. General education, we have 4 gen ed outcomes: mathematical skills, communication skills, technology skills, and critical thinking skills. All of our transfer track students should be able to meet or exceed our measures in those areas. We use the ETS proficiency profile, which used to be the CAP test, to assess math and critical thinking. Our measurement or our benchmark is students would score within 1 standard deviation of the national mean. And then for technology skills and communication, 70% of the students will receive 70% or better on a technology skills rubric and a communication skills rubric in their capstone course. On a project they do in the capstone course. Only graduate students planning to graduate enroll in the capstone course. So the thought is they would have everything up to that point. So beyond that, when we look at the data here, we're looking at the standard deviation over on the far right-hand column, and then the national mean is in green, and then our overall is in yellow. So if we're within 1 standard deviation of the mean, we're meeting what our benchmark is, and that it's a nationally normed survey. 122 students in 2020, 2021, 138 in 21, 22. Most of the time we're right there in that range. However, you'll notice that on critical thinking in 21, 22, we did not meet the benchmark set forth. So something we need to talk about. We also collect reading and writing in this graduate exam, but we don't utilize that. It's part of the exam. We don't utilize it right now for any of our benchmarks. 5 years ago, so 2017, 2018, we looked at our general education outcomes, and we were only collecting data on 1 of those outcomes that we had. So now we at least collect data on all of them. I'll move forward to what the process looks like.
This is the process for our course, department, or program levels. Everybody, all our faculty, collecting data on their courses as well as in departments and their programs. They have to go through this process. We created this process so that, again, it's universal. No matter what kind of program you're teaching, you gotta have all of these. So the first thing is setting goals and outcomes. Again, what you expect your students to know at the end of the program, that should be part of your outcomes. And then after those outcomes, the alignment and mapping is basically picking out the courses where you're pulling all that data to meet those outcomes. So assignments or outcomes from your courses, which would tie into your program outcomes, and it could be several ones. And we have provided examples of those for our instructors
We'll show you a
So,
couple
yes,
examples here in
different
just a second.
examples, so whatever works for them, because it's not one size fit all. So we have different examples for all of them to see whatever works best for them and they can align that mapping. The next is the assessment plan. Every faculty is asked, and I think now they see the value in this assessment process, so they are more willing to put in this assessment plan that they have created assessment plan for their courses as well as programs, that for 3 semesters, they'll collect the data, they'll look at the trend data, and then based on that trend data, if they want to make any changes or not, even if the benchmark has been met, whatever they thought that was going to be the benchmark at the beginning of the assessment plan or assessment process, even if the benchmark has met, they could still look at something else if there's a gap or they want to make any improvement or they want to change something in terms of alignment or whatnot, they can absolutely do that. At the end of this assessment cycle, and even within when they're going through this assessment plan, faculty in the entire department sits and discuss their results to see what is working for their department or what is working for their program. And if it's not working, it's a collective decision that they, whatever changes they want to make. And based on the changes they come up with, they create an action plan, and then they start collecting data on that action plan, and they write a report based on that, and this whole process starts again. So it's like continuous improvement. They have made changes, even if they didn't make any changes and they want to keep using the same process, they could do that, but absolutely they can move to the second outcome and start collecting data on that one. We don't want our faculty to be overwhelmed, so they are only required, or they only collect data on one of the program outcomes per cycle, because it's a lot of work. We want them to basically do a thorough job of identifying those gaps and work on just one program outcome per cycle.
And most of our programs have 3 to 5 outcomes.
5 outcomes, yes. So this is an example of alignment and mapping. Like I said, when we did this presentation at in-service, we showed them how to do it in terms of if they have 4 program outcomes, the PLOs are program learning outcomes for that program. So if somebody has 4 program learning outcomes, all the courses which are part of that program, they should tie to at least one of those program learning outcomes. Otherwise, there is no reason for that course to exist under that program. So I is for I is for introduced, P is for practiced, and M is for mastered in terms of the level of I would say level of
It's on Bloom's taxonomy,
Yes.
kind of where you're wanting
Yes.
the level of understanding.
So, yeah, so basically, how much students have the opportunity to practice or master that outcome in which of those courses? So basically identifying.
And I'll tell you just by looking at this one, this is the construction map for the construction program. CNT 1001, that top course, is safety orientation.
Yes.
The first outcome is based on safety in the trades. So that is absolutely practiced in that course, and you see it's mastered down further on that list.
Yes, because by the end of the program, we want all these outcomes, or the students to at least master all of these outcomes when they're almost done with that program. Okay. This is another example of.
This one's more in depth. This is a
Yeah.
course alignment to a program outcome.
Yes. So on the left
Or course
second column, that's a course learning outcome, which is demonstrates strong college level academic skills, including communication, personal responsibility, time management, and goal setting. And then based on that outcome, you identify the criteria, what they're going to be using to assess that outcomes. And going even further, they identify the assignments which we're going to be used to assess that course outcome. And the benefit of that is if multiple faculty are teaching the same course, they can sit together, identify those assignments so that everybody is doing the assessment for that course in the same way.
All right, so co-curricular, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We call them co-curricular objectives. So because they're not written in a real measurable manner or a real active manner. So academic support, campus and community engagement, and personal growth and leadership. This is what we look for in the co-curricular process and our objectives. About a year and a half ago, I guess it would have been 2 years ago next April, we got some guidance from our accrediting body that said pull athletics out of your co-curricular. So our co-curricular objectives used to have athletics as part of it. It does not anymore. It's activity-based now. So you would be able to make an argument either way, but our co-curricular objectives do not involve athletics. They involve these departments currently: TRIO, Student Success Center, Library, Phi Theta Kappa, Advising, Student Nurse Organization, and Skills USA all feed into our co-curricular objectives. So a student involved in any of those activities is part of the co-curricular process. And just a quick, little more in-depth breakdown, PTK objectives that are co-curricular. You can see how they're kind of written in the same way that ties back to the overarching objectives. Demonstrate leadership qualities by meeting the 5-star chapter plan requirements, engage in community service, all a piece of the co-curricular side. Skipping through this, we can provide you guys with this PowerPoint later if you would like it. That's an example of one of the things that PTK did and library did together. Was a common read project. They partnered, had 15 participants from across the stakeholder groups we have as a college, went for 7 weeks to discuss, met weekly to discuss a reading, and then had a guest speaker that followed the completion of each reading. For those of us involved in it, a few of us in here were a part of that, and it was really a really nice project. So to kind of wrap up there, you can see that map again, and hopefully you have an idea of what the assessment committee and what we've been doing as an institution to focus on assessment. We spend a lot of time on it. We spend a lot of time. Sonia devotes more time than I could even fathom to it. And yes, she sits down with faculty members. The thing about assessment is it has to be a faculty driven process. I know she gets mad at me because she tells me, just tell me what to do. I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do. We have the faculty drive the assessment process. And our assessment committee members, Sonia and I do sit on the assessment committee, but really it's the faculty members. Kevin Tamir, Sarah Sutton, Vanessa Pointer, Ashley Page. I'm reading this behind you guys. I'm not doing this off the top of my head. Vicki Later, Robert, Maria Barr, and Susie Arvidsson. So Jacob Reichert, myself, and Sonia sat on it as non-voting members, just that helped the process. But if it wasn't for the work that they did, we would not have made near as much progress as we have. We've come a long way in the last few years, a long way. We got a long way to go, and it's never ending. It always keeps going. We've made a lot of progress, and I really appreciate the work that the entire committee has done, and Sonia has done an amazing job with it. So.
It's a huge amount of material. And
It is.
but like I say, in the end, it's going to be good.
And that's
Something
what,
you
and
can
I
really use.
think that's what we feel good about, because like I said, I mean, it's been going on for such a long time, but we have streamlined the process and we want to get everybody on the same page and saying, hey, this is how you're doing it. Not this is how you're doing it, but this is the process. They can tailor it based on their program. And that's why we sit down with programs separately, because what we are doing with English department doesn't work with construction trades or welding or Cosmo. So basically that's what we are doing. And I think we have collected data on institutional outcome, one of the institutional outcome out of those two. So we're going to be collecting on the second one. We have collected data on all 4 gen ed outcomes. So that is done. We have completed the cycle on that. For program level outcomes, we are done, almost done with curriculum mapping, as well as we are done with all the program level outcomes, and faculty is doing their course level assessment anyway.
Some of our programs didn't even have program level
Program
outcomes 4 years ago.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they've done a great job. Great job. So I can't say enough.
But if you have any questions.
Any other questions, anybody?
It's an impressive amount of work, and it's really meaningful, because when you collect that data and then have those conversations, that's where you get the improvement going. And without it, you don't know where you've been, so you don't know what to do any different. It's impressive.
Yeah, that step of, okay, this is what we have, this is what we're going to do next has been has been a huge step for a lot of our faculty to understand how to make that connection and, okay, this didn't work and this is what I'm going to change to do it. And then down the road, one of our next big steps is inter-rater reliability and checking going back and looking at our outcomes really with a fine tooth comb. So very cool.
But the good thing is everybody's seeing value in it. I mean, our faculty is and everybody else. So that's driving this process. Yeah.
Thank you. Good stuff. Consent agenda, approval of the agenda is A. B, approval of minutes of previous meetings. Attached are the minutes of the regular board meeting conducted on September 19th, 2022. C, approval of treasurer's report, bills and claims. Attached are the treasurer's report and the bills and claims report. D, approval of personnel actions. Transfers, Holly Souza from nursing administrative assistant to ATP database manager effective November 3rd, 2022. It is recommended that the consent agenda items be approved as presented. Is there any discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Moving second, Julie, would you call for the vote?
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewin, Hart.
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Harlesmeyer.
Yes. Action and discussion items. A, consideration of aesthetics program. During the last few years, the Cosmetology Advisory Board has requested the need for an esthetician program due to limited local options and the costs associated with those options. The Kansas Board of Cosmetology has a prescriptive curriculum for esthetician similar to manicuring and cosmetology. Program would be considered a certificate B and require 30 credit hours, 1,000 total clock hours. The curriculum includes infection control, skin anatomy, physiology, skin analysis and consultation, skin treatments, body treatments, advanced skin treatments, temporary hair removal, makeup, business practices, state law, and finish with student-specific need. Our goal is for the program to initiate in the fall of 2023 at Pittsburgh Cosmetology location. It is recommended that the board approve the esthetician program and support submission of the program to the Kansas Board of Regents. Any discussion?
And with esthetician, one thing I didn't put in there was the cosmetology instructors have had discussions with their students, and they believe that many of their students, once they finish the cosmetology program, would go ahead and enroll in the esthetician program to add it on to their degree after graduation as well. So the options in the state are Johnson County Community College or any of the private $15,000 to $20,000 programs that students just can't afford. So very few options in the state.
Okay, I do know a young lady who worked for us in our store is going to Missouri Southern for the esthetician program. So that's the closest, closest to here.
Yeah. Yeah, Joplin is the closest.
Okay.
So,
Is there a reason why it's in Pittsburgh?
they have the space in Pittsburgh already. It would be an easy transition, and I believe that the student base there is a little higher than it is right in Fort Scott right now. So
The possibility
of expansion is absolutely there.
And what cost would be associated with an
An instructor cost. So we would look at full-time or part-time instruction at this, kind of like we've done with STARS with the contract work. And then update to the back classroom, which we just did some update this fall to the back classroom, but we already rent the space. We already pay for the space. And it would just be a matter of getting a makeup bar and looks like maybe some drywall.
Students enrolled in that, would that generate enough income enough to cover instructor salary, that sort of?
If we were full, yes. And I, right around 10 students, I think, would be ideal to start with. If we're gonna do a part-time contract easily.
There does have to be a budget submitted with the proposal that goes to the Board of Regents. It first goes to the PEA, which is the tech ed authority. It has to approve it, and it kicks up to the Board of Regents. There may be some of these programs, the way the Board of Regent works now, it has to be high demand, high wage, and high demand, high wage.
High wage, there's one other criteria, high tech also could be
High
there.
tech could also be in there, but the trouble with some of these programs that are attached with cosmetology is they're high demand, but they don't meet the high wage criteria. And so you get some pushback on some of the programs.
Is there any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call? Please.
Stevens, Hart.
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Item B, consideration of Arnold Arena HVAC bids. As a member of NJCAA, Fort Scott Community College is now facing newly implemented requirements regarding the maximum heat level of 87 degrees in the gym that student athletes cannot practice or participate in games in the gym. We have had to reschedule one game early this season, given the long lead time in purchasing. Administration is moving forward with installation to hopefully meet the need for the 2023 season. A request for proposal was initially published on August 27th, 2022, and no response was received. After additional discussion, the decision was made to continue with the search for vendors to bid on the project. Jared contacted MSI Constructors, contractors for Bailey Hall and cafeteria remodel, Rouse Sheet Metal from Joplin, Missouri, Design Mechanical, our HVAC maintenance servicer, Midwest Heating and Air, Joplin, Missouri, and others from the local area for Pittsburgh and Joplin, Missouri. Each vendor participated in a walkthrough with Jared and was given parameters of 40-ton unit. Calculations of tonnage needed were based on calculation of gym capacity, stock duct running from north to south along the west side, and optional to furnish concrete pad and electrical update. Proposal received with Rouse Sheet Metal, $180,000, does not include concrete pad or electric update, includes a $5,000 addendum, and MSI Constructors Incorporated, $263,500, does not include the concrete pad. Administration recommends proposal of Rouse Sheet Metal Incorporated for $180,000. Jared.
Oh,
Okay. What's the story?
Okay, so we did have a couple bid on it. There was one that chose not to bid because he thought he was gonna be so far out there, which would be design mechanical, because he was gonna have to bring union workers down from the city. All right, I've read through both of these bids. I really like MSI's bid, let me just tell you, but I can't see $80,000 for electric, okay? So we are trying to go with Rouse, and the only thing that I didn't like about Rouse is he couldn't find rings to fit his ductwork. And with that being said, I understand, because the size of ductwork we're gonna have to put in that thing is gonna be pretty, big, because we were supposed to have 2 runs of ductwork. There's not a way to put a second run of ductwork in there, so I've got to be creative at some point so that we can pull air from off of this side back over to the east side, because it's gonna come right down, kind of off to the west side, over by the rodeo side, and run all the way down to the south end, about 115 foot. So I know that this will cool the building enough to where we can play in it, but at some point,
obviously we'll have to come back with. I wish we could pull the 2 trunk lines, but there ain't no way with the way our basketball goes move, riding in there, there's no way to pull 2 huge trunk lines. So my thought was, we'd go ahead, do 1 trunk line, and then later on, we could add on to that trunk line and pull it up across the ceiling over the top of the lights and shoot it back over to the east side. But we are gonna do the concrete if we do it, so we'd have another additional cost of about $1,800, I would imagine, somewhere roughly around there, maybe 2,100. And then we'd have the electric bill on there. I can't see them gouging us for $60,000 or $70,000 worth of electric. I don't think it'll cost that much. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, we're supposed to meet with Evergy out here at the transformer. He's supposed to give us the scoop on if the transformer's overloaded, or if we can pull enough power from there. If we can't pull enough power from that one, there's another one right back here, right behind this building. And I think we can pull enough out of both of them to probably get the job done, provided obviously it ain't gonna cost us $100,000, you know, but then obviously probably Alicia would tell me, Jared, you probably need to table that. But if we can get it done for a reasonable amount, I'm hoping that electric ain't over 10 or 15.
So you want to run a trunk line down on the west side of the arena area, or no, the basketball or whatever, volleyball courts area.
Yep.
And then you eventually want to run something over to the east side.
We'll eventually have to do that. The original plan was that we'd pull it out with the way the offices are set up and the way the red iron runs over there. There's no way to pull it. So we'll have to go up and over. And the original plan was is we'd pull one out and run it down the face of the wall there. That won't work either because of the office area. And then that creates one more 90 and then another 90 over here. So we lose airflow within those 2 90s right there. So the only option I've got to get it in there. Now I know I can run it up and over the ceiling off of the same trunk.
And then run it down each.
You're right.
Like so.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think we'll ever get it in there. Just due to the way the basketball goes, have to come up and go down.
Okay, I see what you mean by running across the center.
Yeah, and then we've got heaters in the way over there, so we gotta stay so far off those heaters to stay compliant with our fire codes and stuff. Been kind of it's been a mess, let me just tell you. I have met and we have racked each other's brains. We went back and forth for a month on this kind of stuff. But this is what we came up with, and hopefully we'll be able to play ball on it.
Did you run that by anybody about running something over the center?
Yeah, I did. I ran it by Rouse and he was on board. He said, Jared, it would work. He said we could do that because he's going to put a 20 horsepower variable speed fan in there, just pull out outside air. And so with that, we'd still be able to put the back over to the east side. It'd be an additional cost right now that we probably couldn't afford, but all we need to keep it at is 87 degrees so the kids can play. And then I can figure this out in due time, you know, but I know it's not ideal. It's not the way I wanted to do it. I wish we could have just pulled the 2 trunk lines through there and say we're good, but with everything in the road, I know that's not a possibility at this.
Okay.
Jared, when will you have an idea of what the electrical?
I'm gonna say probably late this week. Because I know tomorrow we'll meet with them at 9 o'clock in the morning. They'll go back and make sure that there's enough power left there, not to overload that transformer. And if it does, if there's not enough power left inside that transformer behind Arnold on the north side, then I'm hoping that there's enough power left in this transformer right here. That even if we had to steal 100 amps off of this, 100 amps off of that one, that we can still come together and still be within decent price range. The initial bid for the electric was about, because they thought at first they were gonna put a 25 ton and carry everybody with capacity and everything. So they thought that maybe we'd up the tonnage. So we had one guy at 60 tons, we had one guy at 35 tons, and I landed somewhere around 38 tons. I say we'll call it 40 tons. And so that upped our amperage. So instead of having to have a 100 amp service, now we need a 200 amp service. At the time, we knew that this 100 amp service was going to pull that one unit. Well, now we're looking at 200 amps. I could just over. So we're praying that we still got enough left inside that box. And if so, then I would imagine the electric wouldn't be terrible at all. I mean, I think our first bid come in about 4, so double the amperage, you probably double. We're looking at 8 more thousand. But if it has to trench very far, that's the biggest fear that I've got, because it don't take much right now, and it's going to cost out the union to put electric in.
Well, the reason I was asking is if you've got that figure coming soon, we would add to the Rouse bid.
Sure.
That might be information that, we want to consider. I don't know.
There's a possibility, you could make a motion that says, we would go with this bid as long as it does not exceed so much.
Yeah.
I wanted to remind you too, that this is the HERF money, that is the Higher Education Relief Fund. The reason that this meets the criteria that the federal government put in place is it is an upgraded ventilation. So we're able to put it into that federal money. That federal money does have to be spent by June 30. Remember, we got an extension on that deadline, but all that money, so the cafeteria remodel, Bailey, this project, that all has to be in place and spent by June 30. It has to be, in other words, we have to have the bills and it has to be pulled from the G5 account, which is the federal, of course, grant fund. So there's some, there's some time restrictions here that we're looking at, because one of the things that Jared, and thank you so much for all you've done with this, have run into, especially when talking about heat and air, is that there's, for whatever reason in that field, there's huge supply chain disruption issues.
Yeah.
Looks like we're having it in Warden Parks. So.
The York unit was about 27 to 30 weeks out at this point. Now that can back up, and I mean, they'll tell you up front, if you order it, it could back up when that date arrives. You may not see it, and we've seen a lot of that here on campus here in recent months.
We had sort of set aside, if you'll remember that sheet that I gave you, I had set aside about 250 for heat and air over there. Julie tells me I don't have that much left because, we had some overruns on Bailey and stuff like that, but I think we're still all right. If, like Jared says, the electric run more than say 20,000.
That's why I'm crazy. So I can't imagine, as long as the power's there. Now, if that power gets down here on this other one, I'm gonna say it's probably gonna get the $20,000 mark. But if it has to go back to transformer, then I have no idea. I don't even know how to calculate that at this point. But I think we should probably have enough. Surely we've got 250 amps. I know that's the whole box, but surely we've got 250 amps somewhere that's in a decent range. I would pray.
Then maybe we need to add to this recommendation, if it put a cap of, if it goes over what, 200,000 to,
If whatever Jared thinks, I would think 200,000 would catch it, but
I would
to be honest with you, it's one of those things, I don't think we'll know for sure until we get it done. Because it's like, if, you know how that goes, if they run into having to run a line and all of a sudden we get into a bunch of problems and things we didn't foresee, that runs the cost, you know how that goes, so.
Theoretically, if it's where we hope it is, I mean, we're talking about, for me, you, John, is there about where the line should be, supposed to be in 3-phase and that size wire. It's gonna cost a little bit. I'm figuring somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000. We do the digging for them, and then they would lay the pipe and stuff in the ground and hook up.
onto it and all that.
So, and we want to do it before we pour our concrete. I mean, a lot of people and a lot of questions that I still have, and not really so much about who I'd rather go with. I'm just concerned of why that fella didn't put his electrical bid in from NSI, but I know he's bidding for the unknown. And so I think that's why his bid is so high compared to what Rouse's is. And I don't blame him for bidding for the unknown, but I did specifically ask him, please put that part over there so we can see it. That way we can keep you in the loop if I'm close enough, and we can take you and move you around.
Dave, what are you thinking, some kind of a number like to top out at it? If it goes over a certain amount, then
Oh, I think probably 200 is kind of what we've been kind of talking about. And certainly if there's not the amperage out there to do it, then
Yeah,
then we're in a pickle and we probably can't, we'll be stuck a little bit.
we would probably still go ahead and get that bid just for future reference, even if we had to table it for several months, because this is, I mean, our kids are dependent on playing in the gym due to it. So even if we had to wait until we were able to find a little grant money, I don't know what Ralph could do or something, to find something that would just fit the bill and say, hey, look, here's the other 10 you're gonna need for that project. So I would definitely think that we still want to hold on to it and try to do it somewhat pretty quickly so that we didn't lose those bids, because everything's going out the roof.
So if we vote to accept, say, Rouse's bid, how long is that price good? Is there like a 60-day time?
I would imagine, and I could call Mr. Kim and get a number on that.
Because
And
they're usually,
I would say
usually
within 30.
a time they want to rebid it.
I think you've been running on 30 days on these.
I would imagine that 30 would probably be max on the way that the unit stuff is going. Anything to do with HVAC right now, it's such an unknown and very complicated.
Yes.
And I agree with the $200,000, don't get me wrong, but I think if it gets too high and we don't have that, then I think we're looking to maybe getting hold of Ralph and saying, hey, can we find some other grant that could, say if it was 30,000, could get us that extra 10, or maybe I've got it hidden somewhere and Julie would know better. I don't have a clue. I doubt it.
Well, look, I heard that says no.
I'll check my
The
wall.
auditor is just here.
I highly doubt that I have it, because I overdo my project.
Well, we
costs.
still have some COVID money,
But
so
Well,
we can move things.
I would feel comfortable, like Dave said, like capping this at 200,000. If you see it's gonna be over that,
let's try to figure something out.
does that sound reasonable?
That sounds fair. That sounds fair.
If you're good with it, I'd make the motion that we accept the Rouse bid as long as we cap at 200,000 with the electrical addition.
Now, keep in mind, though, I do want everybody to look at that Ralph bid and stuff. I do like his bid, but I do want everybody to know that now this is socked up with no rings in it. So whenever it's not, which I can't imagine when it wouldn't be pulling outside air, and that it will deflate just like sock, and as it comes on, it will expand just like sock. But you can't get rings for that size duct, which is not a huge deal because the variable speed fan should be on most times, so it should be swollen up.
And you can always change the ductwork out later.
Later on, and I thought about the same thing as well, because I just knew that the 263 seemed a little high, and I knew he's trying to gouge me on the electric side of it. And I don't blame him. I'm not saying he's wrong, and I would have done the same thing.
Okay, so let's change that to, how did you say that, Dave? That was,
I move that we accept the Rouse sheet metal bid with the stipulation that once the electrical addition is added to it, it does not exceed a total of $200,000.
Julie, can you do that? Tell me when you're, maybe you got that. Thanks. Take your time. And maybe read that to it.
To approve the bid from Rouse Sheet Metal Inc. with the stipulation that once the electrical expenses are added, it does not exceed $200,000.
And so for the project.
The total project does not exceed
Yeah.
$200,000.
I noticed on the Rouse thing, it says current lead time 24 weeks.
That is lead time on the unit itself, but that lead time is the lead time that I was talking about couldn't move. Like I've been waiting on the same 2 compressors over here that were supposed to be in September. Well, it started in August 19th, and we still haven't got those same 2 compressors.
Okay.
That's why, like I said, time is really of the essence here,
Right.
because we've got,
June.
because it is HERF money, which is the federal money, it has to be in place, spent, we have to put the report up, and it has to be like good to go, June 30th. Which we should be okay, but I tell you, we're all,
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, we're already, really pushing it, so.
And if we don't spend it, we lose it.
That's right.
Correct. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I did the motion.
Oh, you did the motion.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote?
Art,
Yes.
Holt,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewin.
Hearing that, we-
I wish you could have been part of the entire process.
I'm glad I wasn't.
Jared, thank you, and
Yes, sir.
keep, keep us informed as to
I
how. it's
will,
going.
and I will let you know as soon as that comes. I'm hoping later this week, because I needed it today, and I called him today, and he said, Jared, we're meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, then I bet they'll want a table, and I said, that's okay, because I'd rather table it to get $50,000 than something else. We gotta pay that.
Okay,
So anyway, I will get with Matt first thing in the morning, hope to have you an answer by the end of the week. I'll let you know. She can call you and let you all know where it's at. I've got a steward, so I can tell everybody, I appreciate everything.
thank you, and we appreciate all your help. Okay, item C, consideration of large-scale network switch purchase.
So we don't have this.
The IT department is requesting to purchase a replacement network switch for the server room. This refresh would allow for future growth and improvement of overall network performance between buildings and some off-site campus locations. The existing switch is probably over 10 years in age and has been showing some signs of deterioration. Since we mainly use HPE Aruba switches on Fort Scott Community College's network, due to their reliability and our knowledge of how to maintain them, we did not reach out for any other equivalent solution from a different manufacturer. Jason.
So this is considered to be the backbone switch. It's housed in our server room, and it branches out to virtually every building in one way or another. So it has multiple modules in it right now. There's a few warning lights that are showing up, POE, which is not a big deal, but it's starting to show. And so it's due to be replaced. It is one of the items that we did do the special request in the budget this year for, so that it can be refreshed. So it was planned.
This must be some kind of a switch.
I'm telling you. They're very expensive when they get to this level. So the one that we would require would be the housing. It requires at least 2 modules in it for network ports plus the fiber ports that we'll need, as well as another module that doesn't have the fiber ports, but it does have 48 ports per module. So 96 or more 96 ports. But this would allow us, like we've been doing some initiatives between buildings. The latest one was Greyhound and Baloo Hall. Instead of the fiber network running from Baloo Hall to this building, it's now running down to our server farm switch, which increases network efficiency. And then Greyhound was being fed its connection with a Cat6 or Cat5 copper line. Now that is a fiber line going down, so their Wi-Fi has improved in both buildings. This thing would allow us to do some more improvements around campus without having to have the spider network that we currently have in place.
I should say, I'm glad somebody understands all this.
The only thing I didn't include in this bid or build are the transceivers, because we don't know what transceivers we're gonna need at this point. But the transceiver budget, if you're gonna say 4 transceivers, is how many we would need, less than $1,000, I foresee. So we have to shut the existing switch down to find out what specifically the transceivers are that are.
Okay, you just said something there that my hand went up. So you're gonna get this network switch. What's okay, how long does it take to take the old one out, put the new one in?
It takes a couple of days.
Okay.
We were optimized, we were hoping to be able to do it during Christmas break when usage is low. But the lead time, just like I just got done talking about HVAC, the lead time for this is Q1 in 2023. So we may not get it before Christmas break comes here, and we'll have to schedule a time when we can do that.
Like over a weekend or something.
Luckily, there's not, so with Blackboard being in the cloud, will not be affected by this. Panopto's in the cloud. The few systems that are on our campus, so Campus Connect would be affected by this. Some SAN networks or data storage networks would be affected by this, but on the weekends, that's going to be low. The main one that would be impacted is going to be the POIS accessibility, because it does run right through that switch.
That would affect
Wi-Fi is, yeah, Wi-Fi will definitely be affected as well.
And you have the capable people to do this?
Yeah.
Be salvaged from the old switch.
The salvage from the old switch, we could. I have also been looking at third-party warranties on the old switch just to get it repaired and possibly keep it as either a spare or move it to another location.
Backup.
Backup. Because right now we don't have any backup. And if it were to go down, it would be good. But this would give us a new switch in the rack, and then we can take the old one and get that third-party warranty on it and either use it as a backup or possibly put it in Bailey Hall.
As I'm looking at this, the model number that you have, they're all the same.
Mhm.
With different.
So when you look at the model number are all the same from all manufacturers
Yeah.
or providers, that's because when I did this, I got a bill of materials and I asked each one specifically for what I want. That
They all
answers the
same.
question.
Yes.
So I've had trouble in the past with specific vendors or resellers. They'll give you a different item than what you're requesting. So when I do this, I look directly to the manufacturer, which would be HPE or Aruba. I talk to one of their reps, they tell me specifically what I need in an unbiased way. And then I take that and I reach out to vendors and I say, this is what I need. How much is it gonna cost? Because I don't want to get extra items that we don't need, specifically is what I want.
And these are the bids that when you
Yeah.
receive.
Why is it such a,
Yeah. Very interesting.
The range,
yeah,
two of these are definitely on state contracts, so CDWG and Howard EDU, I spoke with them both directly. I can list the contracts that CDWG has. Howard EDU has state contracts. Insight doesn't have it. They have contracts, but not state in. Zones is a new vendor I've been trying to work with, but I don't have a rep yet, so that's their base rate. So there's a difference there. But CDWG is who we usually use on the large projects like this.
yeah, this is large. To me, it is anyway. So you're comfortable with that. It's the lowest bid, but you're comfortable with that.
I knew this one was gonna be an expensive one.
Any more questions?
You get that next day replacement, I assume they ship you something, the unit
Yeah.
they have.
It would be a next day because the way HP warranties their equipment, it's based on distance from a provider that can help you within a specific amount of time.
Okay.
The one that's the best that I could get was the Foundation Care next business day.
You typically keep that going, like, is it like a year term or how long is that?
This would be a year term maintenance coverage. This is 1 year, yeah. So in the strategic plan or budgeting, this would be something that we would want to maintain consistently. So cost of ownership is going to be another $2,000 every year that we're going to put on this until it gets to the end of life.
Any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Approve, purchase as requested.
So moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote. I'll call for the vote. Julie, please.
Holt.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Marklemeyer.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Stevens. Clark.
Yes.
May I ask one more question? So I have this listed as $35,668.63. But just like Jerry got back telling me, the cost on this could go up a little bit. So the way I worded it was to purchase all of this from CDWG without an actual cost. Is that okay? I don't expect it to go up too much.
It's no too bad to say. I mean, I don't know.
I think we would need to amend that motion.
Sorry, I didn't mention it before.
That's okay. You want, well, okay.
What do
Yeah,
you
what-
expect?
I don't
to go?
expect it to go up more than 45, if at all. it will probably be this, but I don't want the door to slam in my face and not be too low.
So an additional $10,000.
But I don't foresee it being that high.
I don't do that, we've already voted. through 35.
I think you have to vote to take that down.
We do it. Make a motion to rescind that.
I move we rescind the previous approval for the CDW bid.
Do I hear a second? Second. Moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote for that when you're through typing?
Holt.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Carlsmeyer.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Stevens. Hart.
Okay. Dave, you're sound like a pretty good having the thing about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So authorize the expenditure with CDWG not to exceed 45,000.
That
is.
Yes. Okay,
You realize that one of the bids, that's.
it's 43,000 from inside, yeah.
Then
I think we have to maybe make it 43.
Why don't we make, yeah, let's make it 43. Does that sound better? Okay, the motion is to accept the bid from CDWG for 35,668.63 plus, or not exceeding.
We would accept the purchase of the switch from CDWG and amount not to exceed 43,000.
There you go. Thank you.
People on the board members for the board meetings for 24 years did pay off, didn't it?
Who's got
No,
That, they just,
I just made a motion.
yeah. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote?
Nelson.
Yes.
Carlsmeyer.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Stevens. Hart.
Yes.
Holt.
Yes. Okay.
sorry for the confusion.
It's just the times we live in. I think that's what's going on, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D, appointment of Bourbon County Ready Representative. Jim Ewens has been serving as Fort Scott Community College representative to Bourbon County Ready REDI, but is rolling off the committee. A replacement needs to be appointed. It is recommended that Brian Holt be appointed to Fort Scott Community College as representative to Bourbon County Ready. Has Brian been, have you been told about?
Yes.
I think you've been
Yes.
approached about doing this, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And you would accept that? Any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I need to accept. Right. Representative.
Moving seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote?
Carlsmeyer.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Stevens. Hart.
Yes.
You vote on that? Holt.
Abstain.
Yes. And thank you for being willing to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Items for review. I'll read these if that's okay. Thank you again for a wonderful meeting. City. I don't know if I can read all of this. Special thank you also for a wonderful visit to your home and the lake. From Nancy M.
Ingram.
Ingram, Johnson County Community College trustee, KACCC president. Alicia, thank you so much for hosting the KACCC quarterly meeting. It's always nice to be on another campus and experience the college in our great state. Colleges in our great state. I'm having a hard time with this. Everything was perfect, and I hope you will share our thanks with your team. Thank you. It was wonderful also to meet several of your trustees, and I hope they will be able to join us. And then here's another one. Thank you very much for your generous donation. It will be used to purchase much needed school supplies for West Bourbon Elementary students. Clearly, Gillian? Who's that?
Julian.
Gillian's first name? I can't. Gillian? I don't know. I believe it's Terry. Oh, like Tara? I think it's Terry. Terry. Okay, thank you. Administrative updates. Julie? Sure.
I have quite a lengthy report. I asked everybody to help get me up to date and that type of thing. And so if you have any questions about that, it's in there. A lot of updates from maintenance
Is
and
this what you handed out earlier?
I was going to talk about that in just a minute.
Okay, I thought that
But
was
yes,
different.
there's
Yes, okay.
just the normal updates that you got in your report. A lot of stuff going on as far as the different departments and what they're working on and what they've accomplished over the summer. They have a lot to be proud of and what they can manage to get done with limited staffing and the staff they have. One thing that is particular interest in there is going down to financial aid, if you would. I thought that would be very interesting for you is we have some data concerning our default rate for students. Elijah put some information in there about, keep going. That we as an institution that receives Pell and loans, particularly loans, that's where you get into the default rate. We have to also work to educate our students on payback of those loans and when they are due and that type of thing, and keep our default rate below 30 to 35%. 30% is the most important. And we just recently got our report, and you can see that we have been extremely high in the past. 2017, we were 26.2, which kind of concerned us there. I think that's page 90.
Yes.
Yeah. And we we hire that education of our students and the collection and trying to get our students involved in the plan, the government. We contract that out with a third party, and we had a change of vendors after 2017. That vendor went out of business, and we went to another one that was much cheaper, a brand new company coming in, and they have been really successful. You can see we've gone from 26.2 to 5% for our most current data. We're kind of like data, we run a couple of years behind, but we are at 5%, which is probably the best rate we've ever had. It's very good. And the new company, they do a great job of calling the borrowers that have a loan. They talk them through what to do, educate them on that if you're not going back to school, then in 6 months, you will have to start making payments. They've done a great job of that. Even during COVID, which this report doesn't reflect, they kept up with them and made calls and educated them on, right now you're not required to make payments, but you will eventually be. And so you need to be thinking about this. And they just did a great job of keeping them up to date. So we're really proud of that. Financial aid is like, oh yeah, they're excited about that. You see an IT update there of all the projects they've been working on. Some of them they have open. Jason has a new, very inexpensive software that helps him keep track of his projects and kind of put them on a timeline. And I think that has worked well for him and his department, as well as the ones that are needing those projects done. Business office, cashiers, logistics. We also have a new cafeteria director, and he's doing really well. He has, kind of one of those things where you, try to train up your own people. Alex is somebody that's been here, although he's a Great Western Dining employee. He's been here 18 years and he, is doing a great job. He's already surveyed the students, see what they wanted, and had a couple of those special nights or special dinners for them, and they really appreciate that, and his staff appreciates it. Any questions about that? And then I'll talk about the refunds that I brought with me. Any questions, any thoughts? Okay, last month, I believe it was John had asked me, well, I've had people in the community ask me why a student would get a refund. And so I promised to bring a couple of refunds. You got 4 here. So the first one is a Bourbon County student. And kind of, you know, I gave you what they're enrolled in, excuse me, and what their tuition and charges would be. So, you know, they're generally, they would have tuition at $47 an hour and their fees at $58 an hour. This particular student that I looked at had grad fees of $50, so they're just about to graduate. So their total charges were $1,415. They received the Bourbon County waiver, which every student in Bourbon County, if they fill out an application, receives that waiver. And then they received Pell. And so, and then we have our COVID or HERF money at $22 per credit hour. So this student is receiving a refund of $2,861. So, you know, the primary reason that they're receiving a refund is because of their Pell. That is over and above what their charges is. That's full Pell, that's 348. Yeah, they qualify for full Pell. Example number 2 is a high school student. They're enrolled in 5 hours. It was a biology class, I believe. Yeah, it was a biology class taught at the high school, a term class. Our high schools, their tuition rate is $50 a credit hour, so the tuition was $250. Their fees is $58, which that applies across every type of student we would have. So their total charges for that class was $540. They receive COVID at $22 a credit hour, so $110. That's a credit to their account. And then in this case, sometimes our parents forget about that they're going to receive COVID. So in this case, the parent had paid the full amount and they'll still get that refund of $110. We'll be writing a check to them. The next one, example 3, I just tried to pick out some of the things that we seen last week in our refund batch, different types of, or different reasons why a student is getting a refund. This student is from out of state and they're living in the dorm. They had 14 credit hours that are eligible right now, total of 15 that they're enrolled in. So they pay $62 for out of state in tuition and fee, or in tuition. Fees is $58 a credit hour. They are in a grad class, probably that capstone class. So they're getting ready to graduate this semester. They have that $50 fee. They're in a math class. Most of our math classes use a software that helps them practice and do their testing, all of our math classes. Okay, so that the software is a $90 charge. They're in the dorm. I think this is blue, I can't remember, but they have a dorm charge of $15.90, a laundry fee, $25, and then an application fee, a dorm application fee of $125, and then meal plan of $16.35. So their total charges were $5,315. They had an institutional scholarship of $2,000. They had a Pell loan, a full Pell of $3,448, and then COVID at $308. And they will receive So currently, right now, we paid out last week $441 refund to them. Now, the late start class, when it becomes eligible for refunds or, for financial aid, basically, when it becomes eligible for financial aid, then they will receive the $22 credit for that too.
They have to certify before we can pay it.
Right. And the last one I have for you is a nursing student. They're enrolled in 14 hours. They're a Kansas resident, but not Bourbon County. So they pay the $62 a credit hour. Fees are $58. For nursing, they have a nursing fee that covers a lot of their supplies. When we do our fees in the spring, when I bring the fees to the board, we go back through and look at the cost of supplies such as IV solution, tubing, and all of, that type of thing that they would need. So the $400 helps cover that, a lab fee of $50, and the computers are pretty specific to nursing and the type of software they need to run on there and the ability to get online, and also we do charge them an extra $50 for that. This particular student had $658 in charges. We do have, in book charges, we do have students that when they first come in at the first of the semester, may not have, $658 is a lot of money. Nursing books are expensive. They're more expensive than the gen ed classes. So we do review their financial aid, what they have completed, and if they have financial aid to cover it, then we will write a note that they can get their books and then on their account. So that's what happened with this one. $658 altogether, charges of $2,838. And then she is qualifying for a full Pell, full loan, an unsub loan. She had a foundation scholarship, and then the COVID money of $22 per credit hour. So in her case, her Pell would be enough to cover her charges, but many of our nursing students are non-traditional students, maybe is what I want to say. They're working adults or were working adults, and so they need something to help supplement their income while they're gaining their degree. And so a lot of our nursing students will take out loans and other means, both types of loan, sub and an unsub. So that altogether is what's creating her refund of $6,000. And, if you look at it, particularly this one, when I was talking with Alicia about what I presented, it's like, oh man, we paid out $6,000 to a student. But most of this is federal government monies. It's not us as an institution paying it out, because we turn right around and request that monies from the federal government to cover it for the loans and for the Pell and the COVID money. And then foundation, of course, funds their scholarships too. So it is just wanted, hopefully that helps explain why some of the reasons of why students get refunds and how they're funded and that type of thing.
This is what people were asking me, what's this mean? Why do they get refunds?
Yeah.
This is good. Thank you.
Yeah. So, unless it's a direct institutional scholarship, many of them are funded by the federal government. That help?
Yes.
That's all I have for you, unless you have questions.
Chris?
I'll be fairly brief. I have been working quite a bit on our CDL. We're making progress. I'm hoping that at the next meeting I can say we've started our first classes. But we've met with the Department of Revenue, and they've approved a temporary basic skills course where we can do our backing, which is kind of on the bypass in Pittsburgh while we get Crawford County to help build the pad for that down at CTEC on the
east side.
That's gonna be on the east side of the CTEC building.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, to that east, there's that open lot. So we're in process on getting that moving. Our road route has been approved as well, so I just need to submit a map to them, but we drove through that with them. We're having work done on the tractor trailer. It's everybody that I've talked to has said that's a great engine in that truck. That was the one to save. But after sitting for 2 years, it needs a little work, and so we think it may have a plug injector or something, and there's a gentleman in town who's working on that. And then we don't necessarily have the equipment to do a carrier bearing on the drive shaft, a big enough press. So we'll probably take it over to Payne's or Larry's there in town and have them kind of do the once over, make sure it's ready for DOT, because we don't want to have a student out there and get pulled over for a DOT inspection. We haven't done our part of it. So working on all of that. I guess it'd be a real life experience. And then starting to work on the enrollment and how we'll do billing. All of our students, even though it's business and industry training, will still apply to Fort Scott Community College to be a student. And then we'll set up a way that we can pull those students out that are maybe going through, say, the local bus barn, and we'll know that we get half of that from Department of Commerce, but then we can build the school instead of the student. So we were just talking about that today and getting that. The interest is, like I said, it's very high. We went out to Salina Tech and visited with those guys. I went to the examiner training with the 2 instructors from Salina Tech, and they have a really very good system for keeping records and how they do their filing. And so we got all of that from them. And interestingly, they don't have a waiting list out there, and we're sitting with 30 some odd people that are interested in our program, and that's with no advertising whatsoever. So I think this is something we're getting closer every day, and it's going to take off. Sure. I know the demand is really high from, I've talked to a lot of people. It'll be good to get it off the ground and running. We'll probably run a smaller cohort here this fall, and then from that we can kind of adjust and readjust if we need to, and be ready to start in January with hopefully a larger group as we get. We went to the Workforce Innovation Conference. It was really good. Got to, it's always good to network with people, and we got to the governor speak. But then Ray Fredericks from TEA, he and I went to a couple sessions. We kind of talked to him. I know it would be a little bit down the road for us, but like a plumbing certificate, and maybe what he is a plumber by trade, but now he's the chairman of TEA, and so good connection there, and I'm sure he'll have some good ideas for us along those lines. And then Alicia and Adam and I'll steal their thunder, but this will be a segue. We met with Pitt State University, so we met with Dr. Ship and some of his people, as well as John Nacarado, and they're just looking for different ways that we can collaborate. So maybe we can talk to them of, is there a way that we could do the first step of an electrical and maybe go 1+1 or 1 semester's worth, and some ideas like that. And they seem to be really interested in that. So we can figure out all of the hurdles and everything, and it might be an opportunity for us there. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. Yes, sir.
This driving range that they're going to build east of the CTEC building, where's the funding coming for that?
At this point, Crawford County, and the biggest expense on that would be moving the dirt and hauling the rock in. We're going to look at making an agreement with Crawford County that they'll help get that done, and then we'll work with them on getting CDL
Drive.
trained.
Oh, okay. All right.
Kind of an exchange.
Great.
And then when it comes to purchasing gravel, I think that's something we want to discuss with the CTEC board as well, because it's really an upgrade to that property.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be talking to them and kind of see what we get when we get there.
Okay.
We'll get closer for sure.
Okay. All right.
All right, like Chris mentioned, we did attend the workforce conference a couple weeks ago. Interestingly enough, I think what I got the most out of it was there was a presentation on employment and why there's so many open jobs and why nobody's filling those jobs. Well, when you look at the data over the years, there's less people. It's not that people are less motivated to work, it's that there's less people to fill the jobs than there used to be as the older generations are hitting that retirement age from a national perspective. So it was really interesting to kind of see that. And it reinforced the fact that maybe younger people are not less motivated to get jobs. There's just less of them to fill the jobs that are needed right now. So interesting perspective on looking at those Department of Labor statistics. Couple more updates. The core outcomes groups met a couple of weeks ago, and 2 new courses were tentatively approved for system-wide transfer, and that's art in the elementary school and music in the elementary school. We offer both of those courses, so we will be aligning our outcomes once those are approved. I'll be starting observations this week, preparing for advisory board meetings. I know Chris will be starting to prepare for advisory board meetings coming up. We will be locking iPads, been reviewing the iPads data the end of last week, and then today making any last minute changes to that, and that has to lock on Wednesday. One of the things I wanted to share I had asked faculty to give me a couple of items that they would like shared. Travis talked about Dream Big Little Ones and the bunk beds that they make for that program. And I know we've talked about it at board meetings, but in our first year experience course, there's a little bit of a volunteer requirement now. And there's 8 hours of volunteer work that are required for students taking the first year experience class. As the reflections are coming back in, the students are averaging 11 hours of volunteer service. They're going over that. We had 17 students who volunteered with Care to Share. And the feedback we've been getting is that they really appreciate the experiences that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And something I never thought it would come out of it. They're just, the students who are new to the area have really enjoyed meeting new people and getting to network that and making new friends. And I just thought, well, that was an interesting perspective that I wouldn't have even thought of. I just thought it would be good for the students for the community engagement piece, but just an interesting side note out of that is that they're actually enjoying it and going above what's being asked. And the organizations have been very complimentary of the work that the students have done. And then our next board meeting will be during finals week. So we're prepping to the end of the semester already. I won't be hearing on.
Yeah.
So I would stand for any other questions. And I just want to once again say I really appreciate the work of the assessment committee and that Sonia does for us as an institution and that group as a whole, and how the faculty have really moved forward with assessment.
Good. On our last visit, Michigan, I don't know if there was a store that we didn't go into that had a sign, didn't have a sign that says now hiring. Yes. It was all over the place. Yeah. That's horrible. Anyways.
It was very interesting. Very interesting.
Now that you mentioned that, Cindy and I were in Colorado for a week, same thing. All the restaurants, yeah. Hiring. Did Tom reach out?
He did. I think he had to do parent teacher.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Just a couple things to sort of follow up on what Julie was talking about and Adam as well. On federal financial aid, we were talking about the debt rate. You cannot exceed 30% on student debt. If you do, it puts your federal financial aid at risk. And so it's a very, very important thing. Students qualify for loans. So they have to, of course, fill out the federal financial aid application, and they qualify based on income, of course, and several other things. About 80% of our students qualify for some aspect of federal financial aid, whether that be Pell money, loan money, work study. So you can see that it's incredibly important that we keep our debt rate down, because we can't afford to lose our Title IV funding, which of course is that student financial aid that 80% of our students get. And of course, like I said, so that's critical, and thank you to financial aid for working on that. They advise the students ahead of time, you know, about the loans. Try not to take loans if you don't need to. As you all are painfully aware, student debt is greater than credit card debt in the United States, and so it's a huge issue. The assessment, again, thank you to the faculty, thank you to Adam. Assessment is critical, again, to our accreditation with the Higher Learning Commission, who is our accrediting body. Sometimes I get asked, well, what does that mean? If we're not accredited, students would not be able to transfer credits. That's what it means. So is it important? Yes, again, it's critical to what we do. You
They
have
also-
to be able to transfer with it.
We also would not receive Title IV.
And we
financial
also
aid.
wouldn't receive federal financial aid, that too. So it's very important. Tomorrow, we are going to have sort of an initial strategic planning meeting, which we're trying to get the data that we have, of course, accumulated over the past year, which we're needing to close the loop on that, you know. So we can bring a report to you that says this particular goal or this plan, this particular, let's say, outcome, it really doesn't make any sense based on the measurement and based on what we are getting back. And so what we want to do, of course, is get that information. Ralph's been working on that. And I think we will sit down then with a group, sort of a grassroots group, and say, let's look at this. We'll have board members look at it and say, let's try to see if we can't. I think in this case, we're going to have to simplify a little bit of this strategic plan. Remember that it kind of works together. So strategic plan, assessment, strategic budgeting, program review, those things are all tied together. And what we're doing then is to try to have continuous improvement through our strategies. And so that includes, like we talked about, it includes budgeting, it includes any kind of program review. And so all those things have to be tied together. And frankly, they have to be tied together, and we have to report on all of that to HLC, the accrediting body. And I really appreciate everybody's work on that stuff. As you well know, it's such an abstract thing sometimes. It's hard to gather your arms around that, to gather that all together and make that something that really is meaningful and reportable, because those are two things that sometimes are difficult. And so I appreciate all the work that goes into that, because it is a whole lot of work. As you can see from my report, excuse me, the Gordon Park celebration was last weekend. It was a wonderful celebration. Kirk Sharp is so passionate about that. He does an amazing job. He and his board, which Robert is on, many volunteers do a great job. It was really 3 days. I don't think you could have packed more in 2-3 days than Kirk put into the Gordon Parks. It really was a wonderful event. We also, of course, had our alumni rodeo. The alumni rodeo, a bit different than, of course, what we would call our circuit rodeo, which happens in the spring. And so they just had one, I think they ran Slack, and you could get in and watch Slack, and then they had the event Saturday night, but very well attended as usual. As he mentioned too, you'll recall that the calendar is different this year. We tried to learn some things from what we got from COVID, and so our students on main campus will be done the day before Thanksgiving, or 2 days before, so they're done on Tuesday. And so that means that finals and everything is done. They will not have to come back to campus after Thanksgiving. What we found is that it's very expensive for students, of course, to go home for Thanksgiving, come back, go home again 2 weeks later. And of course, what we found was that we lost a lot of them. They just frankly would not come back and did not finish the semester. So we were having completion and retention issues. And so we felt like one thing we learned from COVID was to do that. Now, unfortunately, with some of our off-campus sites, we are unable to do that, where we run a lot of high school students through those technical programs because we have to meet the high school schedule. And so in those cases, their semester is a more traditional semester. And so even though I know Adam somewhat disagreed with me on this, I'm like, we can walk and chew gum, we can do this. So it is a bit, but I appreciate everybody's work on this. I think it's going to work, and we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna work. We can make that work. The Bailey Hall dedication, will be next Friday, the 28th, 6 o'clock in the morning. I know that many of you are busy, but if you have an opportunity, we would certainly invite you to come. The Bailey family will be here. Hopefully you received an invitation in the mail. And like I said, the Bailey children will be here as, of course, Robert passed away. Or June, early May, I can't recall exactly right now. But they will be back here. Rick Mayhew will be here too to visit. He was a good friend and also he is a donor for us and we very much appreciate both the Bailey family and Rick coming. I think that after the dedication, and we won't be completely done in Bailey Hall, but we're done enough that we're going to be able to show some things off and be able to at least stage some furniture and be able to show folks kind of where we're at. The original completion date on that was September something. But as you know, there's supply issues and everything else. And so we're still not quite where we would like to be there, but it's going to be a nice event. Just a little bit too about CDL. As you know, we've talked about this. We have in a congressionally directed grant request, which we had that through, of course, Jerry Moran's office, Senator Moran's office. It did make the omnibus bill. It didn't, the bill that went this summer didn't go anywhere. We are still in the bill and we asked for 3 tractors and 3 trailers. We're very, very hopeful for that. I won't know until December whether that is funded or not. I told Chris kind of the way we're going to do it is we're just going to sort of limp along with the tractor and trailer that we have. I just happen to know some people that farm that can provide a tractor and trailer. So Johnston Farms can do that for you because I get to tell my husband what to do sometimes.
Is that flyby, right? It
is. After the boat incident. And, but if the congressionally directed grant does not come through, we have talked to the Department of Commerce and they said that they can come up with some equipment money for us. So that's hopeful. I'm still crossing my fingers that we're still going to be in the omnibus bill, but it's a little bit like playing chess in terms of if you put something in and take something out and that kind of thing. So
playing chess blindfold.
That's real. Yeah, probably. So, but we're still hopeful about that. And again, thank you for all the work that's been done on that. And then last, we do have the theater department presenting Dracula this week. So if possible, and you can come out, it will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night at 7:30. And I'd be happy to stand for questions. If not, that completes my report.
Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Yes. Strong, yeah, I think. Yeah. It's amazing. I'm really happy. So, yeah. He does a great job. Oh.
I do. I do.